Okay, well, we are about 45 seconds away from our start time, and I want to keep us on time, although we can go a little over, not too much over. There's a break, and we are the last session on Friday, which gives us some leeway on discussion, although I believe there is a event following a break, a job fair event in this room too, so we can't go too far over. Let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Brian Weigel, and I want to just first acknowledge that I'm presenting from Adelphi University in New York, and we have 4 campuses which are located on the unceded land of many indigenous peoples from Long Island, Manhattan, and the Hudson Valley. And these people primarily spoke the Delaware, Mohegan, Pequot, Munsee, Wappinger, and Iroquoian languages, and broadly include the Montauk, Manhasset, Korgiak, Shinnecock, Situcket, Unkachog, Nissa Quaquay, Sikatok, and the Massapequops. There's the Manicock, the Merrick, the Rochaway, which is Rockaway now, Queens, Canarsie, Wappinger, Lenape, and the Haudenosaunee, which is the Iroquois Federation. So that is a mouthful, and we just want to acknowledge their traditional lands. And being that now it is 10:40, I'm going to start Sam Coffman's presentation, which he recorded digitally prior. So we'll see if this works out okay for everyone. If you can't hear it, just let me know in the chat, and we'll start from here. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Good morning, everyone. I hope this presentation finds you all safe and well. This morning, Robin and I will present to you the results of our 2020 archaeological survey in the Fortymile River area and our preliminary evaluation of the impact or impacts the north lobe of the White River ash may have had on human lifeways in the area. For those less familiar with the drainage, the Fortymile River drainage is about 200 air miles east of Fairbanks, or about a 7-hour drive from Fairbanks to Tok, and then north along the Taylor Highway.
Oops. Sorry about that, guys. Are you seeing the full screen on your side?
Yes, we are. We can see your PowerPoint right now.
Hey, Brian, if you just hit the top up there, you see where home, insert, go up, and you see the little play button up. Yeah, right there. Just hit that.
Way to Chicken. And really, once you're in Chicken, you're kind of in the heart of the 40-mile country. A couple elements to note. So the 40-mile drainage, it lies in the Yukon-Tanana River uplands. It drains to the east into the Yukon Territory and ultimately into the Yukon River. The 40-mile is designated a wild and scenic river that is managed by the Bureau of Land Management. The wild and scenic river boundary is shown in black and limits our survey capacity to roughly a quarter of a mile to a half a mile on either side of the river. To date, we have surveyed all 5 of the main tributaries that comprise or make up the 40-mile proper. On the right side, you can see each year and how many archaeological sites we have found when we have surveyed those tributaries. Last year, we were able to get back to the Middle Fork, North Fork, and Denison, and had some luck in locating new archaeological sites while also investigating previously known sites as well. The results of our 2020 survey, we surveyed 260 acres, dug 60 shovel tests, and found 14 new archaeological sites, of which 2 were historic and 12 were prehistoric. The 2 historic sites were exciting to find. In the lower left corner, a cabin ruin that dates to about the 1960s, and then in the lower right, that T-shape foundation there is an anchor point, or what's known as a dead man, that would have anchored a dredge in the river. So kind of exciting. In terms of the prehistoric sites, we found a Lancelet projectile point base, you can see there. And then the third image from the left are caribou phalanges in a hearth feature that we found at one of the sites. So kind of exciting stuff. And there's still a lot to be found out there, I think. Our updated overall summary of the prehistory in the area, and now again, mind you, this is just specific to the Wild and Scenic River Corridor, but we are up to 82 total prehistoric sites, of which 23 of those sites have been dated, and that accounts for 28 total radiocarbon dates. Our cultural record or cultural chronology now ranges from the late Pleistocene to the contact period, AD, 1800s, and early 1900s as well. And then that's not factoring in the rich mining history and the historic era sites as well. This figure shows our revised or current cultural record chronology for the Fortymile River drainage system. All black dates are cultural dates, and all red dates are stratigraphic dates that are associated with cultural material, but not necessarily cultural material. Anyways, you can see that we have a really great late Holocene record that's basically uninterrupted from about contact period all the way up to about 2200 cal BP. And then we have a slight gap in our record at about 2400. I don't think that is indicative of anything, of any large cataclysmic event or anything. I think it's just a matter of us not finding datable material at sites, and I think at some point when we do, we'll be able to fill in that gap. But our record continues up to almost about just shy of 4000 cal BP, and I don't know, this is a really great late Holocene record that spans both lobes of the White River ash. You can see both east and north lobes there. We have a very sporadic mid-Holocene record that you can see made up from two sites. The two dates just past 6,000 years are from one site, Eagle 146, and then the other mid-Holocene date is from Eagle 883. After that, we have a lack of sites and a lack of dated sites for right now or at the moment, and kind of what's going on here. I really think it's just a matter of time before we find sites, or maybe we've already found sites but just haven't been able to date those sites before we start being able to fill in that gap. But that's about a 6,500 to a 7,000 year gap in our chronology or our cultural record there. And then lastly, our surprise site is Eagle 938, and unofficially called Boundary Hill, because it lies just about 50 meters away from the boundary of the Wild and Scenic River Corridor with state land. But that site dates to about 13,500 years cal BP, late Pleistocene age site, that will be returning to this summer to conduct some test excavations, as well as some paleoecology studies, or hopefully we'll be able to do those as well. So one additional note that we would like to make about Eagle 938, shown as the red dot, is that it's really on the outside looking in, and by that I mean looking into the Tanana River Valley drainage, shown as the red dashed line. And it's looking at all of these other late Pleistocene age sites, the sites as black dots, either in the Nenana or Tanana River valleys. And I think even if the site is small, it still has the potential of yielding significant information about a whole nother aspect of these late Pleistocene hunter-gatherers that we really don't have a whole lot of information for. So I think that's kind of the exciting element or uniqueness of this site. And like I said, we'll be following up with you all on future presentations about what we find at this site in upcoming little AAA conferences. So initially, when we started working out in the Fortymile River area in about 2015, I'm going to say that we really just had goals. We wanted to know what type of prehistoric sites were in the region, and we've been able to figure that out and to document those. We wanted to know how old those resources are. That's still ongoing, but we certainly have been able to do that. We wanted to know how the ethnographic record can be incorporated into our surveys, and also if that record can be documented in the archaeological record. And we've been able to do both of those fairly well. And it really wasn't, I think, until the last couple of years that we've been able to really start developing research questions. In this particular, for this particular presentation, what did the White River ash have impact-wise on human lifeways and technology in the region? And if it did, can we see that impact in the archaeological record? And so that's really where we're at right now, or in this phase of this project. The last, how can the archaeological record be incorporated into a better understanding of site locations and site activities? I think we're on the cusp of learning more about that, or being able to begin to answer that question, and that will be coming soon. The White River ash is split up into two lobes, the north lobe and the east lobe, with both lobes thought to originate from the Mount Churchill vent in the Wrangell Mountains. For this presentation, we are specifically focusing on the north lobe of the ash, and we use the Ruther et al. 2019 revised dating for the lobe, in which they calculate the ash to have been deposited between 1689 and 1560 Cal BP. A follow-up to this is also in 2018. We had Catherine Mulliken, then of the Alaska Volcano Observatory, take a look at several of our samples that we had collected throughout our survey, and she confirmed that it was most likely the north lobe of the White River ash. So for this talk, we are really looking at how the north lobe of the White River ash may have impacted or humans in the Fortymile River area. Some examples of the White River ash in the study area. So we've observed it in literally hundreds of shovel tests and geologic exposures, as well as road cuts. It often is shown as a solid band, shown here, and sometimes as pockets. Sometimes it's also been reworked, but in more or less in most sites, it's almost a solid band or pockets. For this presentation, we had a sample size of 51 total sites. 23 of those were dated, all 23 of our sites. And some sites had microblades or microblade technology, either above or below the ash. And to answer the questions of how the ash may have impacted humans, we conducted a series of simple statistical scenarios, either with chi-square or Fisher's exact test, to basically see how this ash impacted human lifeways and lithic technology in the area. So our first scenario was we wanted to know if the White River ash impacted the use of microblades or microblade technology in the Fortymile area. So our null hypothesis was there is a difference in terms of the number of sites containing microblade technology before versus after the White River ash, and we're interpreting that as the White River ash would have impacted the use of microblade microblades in the Fortymile River area. Conversely, our alternative hypothesis is there is not a difference in terms of the number of sites containing microblades before and after the White River ash. So we conducted a simple chi-square analysis for the presence-absence of microblades before and after the White River ash. Our data met the expected counts to conduct a chi-square analysis, and we found that there is no statistical difference with the presence. There is no statistical difference for the presence-absence of microblade technology before or after the White River ash. A Fisher's exact test specific to a 2x2 contingency table also showed that there is no statistical difference. Kramer's fee, which would test the degree of association, so perhaps there was more association of microblades before the White River ash or conversely after, showed little, actually almost zero or no association at all, meaning that there is no association of microblades either before or after the White River ash. So we went ahead and we removed Eagle 938, the Pleistocene site, just because all of our other sites are Holocene in age, and maybe there might be a difference in that regard. Again, our chi-square met our expectations, at the expected values, and we were able to see that there is no statistical difference for the presence-absence of microblade technology either before or after the White River ash. And again, the Fisher's exact test showed this, a very similar result. Kramer's fee also showed still no degree of association of microblades either before or after the White River ash. We went ahead and then just looked at late Holocene age sites, so those sites that are less than 3,000 years or younger. And in this case, we were only able to do a Fisher's exact test. You can see in the table the total counts and then also the expected counts. And based on the Fisher's exact test, we were able to show that there is no statistical difference, again, for the presence-absence of microblade or microblade technology before or after the White River ash. And again, the Kramer's fee showed very little to no association for the technology either before or after the White River ash. In our second scenario, we wanted to look at site location, or in this case elevation of sites relative to the river, in which we were going to interpret this that the White River ash may have impacted human judgment of site location or broader land use patterning in the 40-mile river area. Now, we do realize that we are surveying along the river, so of course there's going to be sites along the river, and that this is a very biased scenario, but nonetheless we wanted to look at that, and perhaps older sites or pre-White River ash sites are higher in elevation versus younger or post-White River ash sites. Unfortunately, our data don't support the use of chi-square or other statistical analyses. You can see the expected count or expected value counts for sites located within the different 50-foot increment levels, many of which are under 5. But the bar chart does show that there is, at least visually, almost very little to no difference in terms of site elevation before or after, or difference of site elevation either before or after the White River ash. Maybe the one exception to that might be the pre-White River ash sites at 150 to 200 feet above the river. Other than that, there is very little difference. And I actually went ahead unofficially and did a chi-square just for grins, and the p-value showed that there was no statistical difference between elevation of sites before or after the White River ash. For our last scenario, we wanted to know if the White River ash impacted the use of obsidian, and obsidian just as a whole, presence, absence of obsidian, so not tied to any specific group like Botsatena or Wiki Peak, but just obsidian in general. Our data allowed us to conduct a chi-square analysis that showed that there is no statistical difference for the presence absence of obsidian either before or after the White River ash. And a Fisher's exact test based on the 2x2 contingency table showed the same results. Kramer's phi also showed little to no association for either the presence absence of obsidian either before or after the White River ash either. We took our obsidian data one step further and wanted to look at now obsidian group use before and after the White River ash, and essentially there really is no difference. This is again just based on visual numbers and counts, but you can see maybe Botsatena gets used a little bit more after the White River ash. Certainly Wiki Peak, 5 sites before and 5 sites after have Wiki Peak obsidian in them or at them. Maybe the biggest difference would be the use of other. So pre-White River ash is a mounted Ziza obsidian. The other is an unknown obsidian, and the use of group CF obsidian, which is we've located along the middle fork of the Fortymile. So that's kind of interesting in some regards. But at the moment, there really is no major difference, at least visually, of obsidian or one particular obsidian group either before or after the White River ash. In the end, what can we say? Well, so we acknowledge that we have a small sample size that is concentrated along the river system. But despite that, we can really say that based on our data set, that the north lobe of the White River ash really had minimal impacts or did not impact the use of microblades either before or after the ash. It didn't seem to impact where sites were located relative to the river, and the presence absence of obsidian does not seem to have changed. All of this suggests that the north lobe of the White River ash probably did not have substantial impacts on human lifeways in the 40-mile river drainage system. I just want to say thank you to all of the field crews for the last 6 years, and also that financial support for this project was provided by the National Conservation Lands Program and BLM under the following agreement number. So, and also to all of you, thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, thank you, Sam Coffman. That was, for those of you who just joined us, that was Sam Coffman and Robin Mills' archaeological survey in the 40-mile drainage, evaluating the White River ash.